And right now, Sean Lennon with Pro Wrestling Enforcer. We talked to Matt Stoffel of Pro Wrestler Apex. That's who he's known as in the pro wrestling world. But he's also a former MMA fighter and as well, and has made that transition to pro wrestling the past couple years. And make sure to check him out. He's the owner of Apex Nutrition, and we've seen him in a few shows. We've seen him at Southland Championship Wrestling, seen him at Ego Pro, AAW Pro. I know you've done stuff pretty much for those companies, right?
MCW I've also been with, and
Okay.
there'll be some other new ones popping up this year.
Okay, for sure. Well, we appreciate you on the show. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Been busy, working out, trying to get back in shape, trying to just get the mind ready for what's about to come. So,
Definitely. And I want to talk about how you got started in MMA as a fighter. What drove you to do something like cage fighting? It's pretty insane when you look at it from the outside. And
yes. So that is dating all the way back. We're gonna go far back here. 3, 4 years old, I discovered Power Rangers. Obviously, like everyone around my age at that time, the '90s was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers being the main thing. I became really interested in martial arts, and I told my parents, like, one day I want to be a Power Ranger. So they eventually put me into martial arts. Was in that till my early teens. Unfortunately, a big part of my life was my great grandmother. She passed away when I was 12.
Mhm.
And I kind of took a hiatus for a little bit until I discovered wrestling in high school. Went to West Aurora, very good program at the time. Heard it dip down. Now it's getting back up there, so which is good to hear. But I took to that pretty fast, actually. By senior year, I only wrestled sophomore year. I got 6 matches junior year before I shattered my left ankle and was done for the whole year. And then senior year, I got bounced around from junior varsity to varsity. And that was actually the first time I ever had to cut weight because they dropped me a weight class. And I got to go do that and learn. And I took third in the DVC that year, which was with Glenbard North, the Naperville schools, all the Wheatons, all wrestling powerhouses, like the
Yeah.
wrestler. That was big time wrestling area. Um, Purely got into MMA by accident. So growing up, I always wanted to be a professional wrestler. I didn't know how to find it at the time. Like this is still before like the Google search engine was becoming part of our everyday life. Smartphones just became a thing. So I had no idea how to find this. I stumbled upon an MMA gym though, learned jiu-jitsu and was debating between wrestling in college or doing jiu-jitsu and going the MMA route to be able to punch people in the face. And I went with the punch people in the face and, want to learn jiu-jitsu. And I took that relatively quick. I started out with Team No Ego out in Oswego, who is unfortunately long gone. But
Mhm.
then about 2 years in, I switched to Midwest Training Center in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Yes.
And they are the powerhouse team in the Midwest still. I mean, we can argue about that all day with anyone MMA fan who thinks their school is better. But they do nothing there but train top end fighters. They train champions, and we usually when Midwest Training Center shows up at a show, the guys are going undefeated. So I said it became an accident. I trained for 4 years, took a fight, and I was hooked on it, man.
Mhm.
I started out my career 3-0, averaged a minute and 30 seconds probably each fight. My first loss, arguably, is still not a loss. That everyone says who's watched it after the fact, that they believe I won that fight, but it was at a facility that was owned by the guy that I was facing's coach at one point. And if you don't finish the fight, it's your own fault. So that was the first time I ever went a full fight, and unfortunately, I lost that via split decision. Went on to lose another fight, and debated on kind of what direction I wanted to go going forward. Unfortunately, personal life got in the way, and then a massive semi truck accident into my car derailed future comebacks for quite some time. Like I think I only came back like 3 years ago for one
Right.
fight to see if I can keep doing it again.
Yeah, you were victorious in your last fight. Why didn't you continue?
So I had a line to finally train professional wrestling with Southland Championship Wrestling, and
Okay.
we had talked about maybe doing both. To be honest, I thought I was going to go there and realize this isn't for me. I'm not that good at this, and be right back in the MMA world.
Right.
Literally started the same week of the fight training, and I was a natural at it. I picked up on everything really fast, and within 3 months I made my professional wrestling debut, and the rest is history on that. I am still not fully retired yet in the MMA world. I don't know if I'm going to get that itch again.
Sure.
So I'm leaving that door open to not officially close it yet. But I mean, if things keep going the same way direction they're going with how much I love professional wrestling, I think this is probably where I'm going to stay. But as I
Yeah.
said, I don't want to close that door yet. It's just
Yeah.
not, it's too part of me.
For sure, man. And that Midwest Train Center, a lot of great UFC fighters came through there. I think
Yes, sir.
Clay Guida, I think Bilal Muhammad came
Yes.
through. Yeah, of course. Lewis Taylor.
Yes.
PFL winner.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a
Curtis
lot more.
Blades was there for a while
Yes.
before he went to Colorado. So him and me are boys. Me and Clay were good friends back in the day. His brother Jay and me obviously were closer just because Jay was there longer. I
Sure.
think Clay at that point was transitioning to alpha male at the time out in Sacramento, where it's all guys that were our weight class. But dude had a motor about him. And to this day, I mean, I'm glad, I'm happy for his retirement. But even to this day, I know he was in his like 40s and he still was just nonstop motor going, man. Dude's a beast.
Yeah. He is. He is. I know. He only retired recently, I think, right? Like a
Yeah,
year
that's
ago.
that's the crazy thing. It was only, I think, like what, the beginning of this year, I think it was.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah. Crazy, crazy stuff, man.
For sure. And then when you talk about professional wrestling and how it's found your way into your life, talk about that. This was you had I'd say successful MMA career. You were established, and then you're jumping into pro wrestling without any guarantee that this is going to pay off, right?
Yeah, I mean that was the crazy thing. I know Koa Laksamana very well. He ran the gym. He still owns the gym that where my store used to be located next to. And he got back into it right when I was in the middle of training for that last fight. And he would tell me like, "Hey, I got the school for you. You can go learn. I know you love wrestling. Come check it out. Come check it out." And he would just pester me for like 6 months. And I'm like, "Bro, I told you, let me finish my fight first. Like I need all my mind on this one."
Right.
Last fight I was in, I lost focus right before I walked out there. I can't do that again. We need to be ready and let's go out there and do this. And as you said, I did not know what was going to be. Was it just going to be something I worked out on or just had fun, did a couple matches and called it a day? But when you got vets coming up to you and talking to you and giving you good feedback and not realizing that that was your debut match. And then a couple months down the road, guys coming up to you and be like, "Hey, so what have you been in the business like 10 years?" And I'm like, "No, I'm on 3 months in. What are you talking about?"
Right.
It gives you that overwhelming confidence, and you know that, all right, I'm doing something right, and I got to keep going from here to keep that progress going. So, was it a leap of faith? Absolutely. I was one fight away for each of those losses from title and getting that call to go try out for the UFC. So
Oh,
it
wow.
it was a little nuts to change that course of life. But the longevity of MMA, I'm coming to the end of life with being 36 years old next month. Professional wrestling, I'm in prime years right now. Like I'm unfortunately missed a lot of my prime due to the truck accident. So
Interesting. Yeah. And were you looking at doing a contender series for Dana White? Is that
I was in talks for one of the Tough Enough series.
okay?
At the time, though, it wasn't something I was able to do. And it would have been really cool to do that. The Contender series came out a couple years later, I think, into my recovery time of trying to work my way back. That's when the Contender
Sure.
series started up. So it
Yeah.
would be really cool to have something like that right when I was coming into the sport.
Yeah. Because if you had to choose between the two, I would assume the Contender series is a lot easier, right?
I feel like that would be the direction to get that call up or get looks comes bigger with Contender compared to the Ultimate Fighter. The Ultimate Fighter was a reality show.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Like you're fighting, like those guys are only gone for a few weeks. They were fighting a lot in a short amount of time span. The amount of you're putting on your body in the first place for a fight. There's a reason why most guys only fight once every, 60 days, I think is considered one of the lower medical suspensions after a fight, just for precautions. Like if you're not taking any shots at all, you might get a month. So you can go fight the next month. But I know there's like 15 to 30 days is the minimum requirement, but there's a reason why. And then you look at the Ultimate Fighter, and these guys are doing this all within a 2-month span, pretty much. It's crazy to think that. So I love the direction they went with the Contender series because it was less about the reality part of it and more about the actual fighters showing that, hey, I'm not just going to sell tickets because of my personality. I'm going to sell tickets because I'm a badass in the ring.
For sure. And we've seen them going on to have success in the UFC, even win championships. So
can't scout everybody. So getting that ability for the people that you have to bring those guys to you and then being able to watch it up close and personal. Oh yeah, that's the way to go.
Definitely. Now, when you saw professional wrestling live for the first time, so you went to a show in person. I was thinking more like an indie show, right? Than like a WWE show. Like what happened that was able to capture your imagination? Like I can do this.
I am a horrible wrestling fan. I will say that right now because my first indie show was 5 months before I started wrestling.
Okay.
Training. So that's how bad it was. And I critique everybody that just talks about how they just go to WWE or AEW matches. They spend all that big money to go to watch the wrestlers who honestly are in nosebleeds. So where these indie shows, you're up close and personal and you're paying a fraction of the cost. And you're seeing a lot of the guys that have either been there already or are on their way up. So that's the benefit of going to the indie shows compared. When I was a kid, I think we didn't go to a lot of wrestling shows. I was pretty much watching it on TV at home. Because at that time, like that was when it was getting big, the WCW WWE war. I actually didn't watch a WWE match until they bought WCW. I was a WCW fan growing up because weirdly enough, my parents let me watch whatever I wanted, but I wasn't allowed to watch WWE at the time. I thought that was very strange, but I got to watch guys like I got to watch Goldberg, I got to watch Sting, I got to watch Hulk Hogan at the time, and then I started discovering like Austin and The Rock, and my friends introduced me to some of those guys at that time, but I just didn't watch those shows. I didn't get to watch Raw or SmackDown. It was just getting to watch those, and then when you get into the MMA world, you learn body mechanics. You learn how to use yourself in different ways. And when you're doing wrestling in high school and twists and turns and everything, core strength, when you get into professional wrestling, I think that's where I had the advantage compared to most of the guys that walk through the door. It's a lot. We see a lot of athletes, but I've already been through over 15 years of learning how my body works and operates and how to do stuff. I used to do backyard things with my buddies. We were just idiots doing wrestling moves. We didn't learn the art of keeping each other safe or like how to actually do the moves in general. We were just beating each other up in the backyard. Not something I'm proud of, but that was kind of my first iteration to it.
Yeah, definitely. And now when you went to professional wrestling, talk about those technical differences between MMA and pro wrestling training. I heard like MMA fighters, they have to learn to, not be so tight or enclosed with their limbs and stuff like that. You have to give up your limbs. You have to, make it a show rather than defending, right?
Yes, and that's the difference between fighting and MMA. It's okay. Hey, give me. It happened a bunch of times as a practice. They would take my arm for like a hold, and I'm just like, they're like, "Oh, you got to give me the arm." I go, "No, you got to work for it." And I'm like, "You're not. I don't just give arms. I don't just give limbs." And it's getting that idea of yes, being more relaxed. Don't be so tight. This guy is not literally trying to kill me. Well, at least I hope he's not. You find out that later on, usually, if they're really mad at you or not. But in the MMA world, you're training, you don't know your guy. You have never talked before, most likely. I fought one friend or former training partner, but like you're most of the time you're meeting these guys maybe that night for the first time. Maybe you had a conversation on the internet. It's a totally different ball game on mindset of where I need to be going in. And the biggest thing is punching and kicking. I've been trained to punch and kick, to take people down and to put them out. Now I got to put it on a show.
Right.
It's a totally different, and that's where some of my striking still isn't there yet because I'm still scared. I understand that this guy's a trained wrestler as well, and he could probably take a hit, but where I've come from, my hits tend to be a little harder because I know how to rotate my body and use my entire mechanic system to be able to throw that punch properly. So it's just kind of like that's been my biggest like like, all right, I guess I can do that. Like, oh, go a little harder. All right, just you asked for it, just so you know. It's definitely that's the biggest differences I've noticed when it comes to training outside of pure volume. I think that did help me too. MMA, we're going 2-3 hours a night, 20, 5 minute rounds, set 10 5-minute rounds between jujitsu and Muay Thai or stand up or ground, whatever the night is. And we're nonstop. You're maybe getting 5 minutes for a break if you're lucky, or you're just going the whole time. So to where I noticed in professional wrestling, there's, hey, watch us practice this move, guys. This is how we're going to do it. This is how this goes. There's more watching and moving. I will never criticize anybody for saying that pro wrestling training is incredibly tough, because it is. I think because of the training that I've had my entire life at this point too, and how I train myself and how I hold myself up, I think that made it a little easier for me to kind of progress through. And I'm not going to say it's easy. It helped me understand it easier too, of having something to relate. But I see like Austin's interviews and stuff, and I will still say MMA training is still far, far harder than professional wrestling training was for me walking into the door, I guess. Have I learned everything yet? No, I'm still learning. Same thing for MMA. I'm still learning to this day.
Definitely. And I'm sure you like to look at the fights and say, oh, what I could have done differently if I'm this guy. And
yeah, I've watched this funny story when I was still fighting. That was when Conor McGregor was starting to come up. And my buddy looked at me the other day. He goes, dude, you're going to have to fight him one day. And I was like, nah, dude, he's older than me. By the time I get there, he's going to be out of this thing. Look up, he's 6 months older than me. I was like, ooh. I was like, oh, God. All right. Maybe I wouldn't have to fight Conor. Like, that's a problem. He was 145. I fought 145. He went to lightweight, and I was going to move up to lightweight too for the return. So, yeah, definitely someone was in my road. Jose Aldo, like my weight classes were stacked at that time. Like, oh my God.
When you looked at CM Punk becoming an MMA fighter, what would you have done differently if you were his coach? Like, he came into Midwest Training Center, you were his training partner. Anything that you could?
We tried that. That's my problem with Punk, actually. And I don't have a lot of them. It's kind of died down now, but we contacted him to come train with us. I wanted a piece of him. All of us did. I knew he did jujitsu. And the thing is, though, he really still didn't understand striking. I know his name brought him to UFC, but as his coach, I would be like, dude, you need some undercard fights first. Right. This is too big. This is too major. I think that kid was, even though he was 0-2, I think or was that his debut against him? He was very, very new to MMA. Yeah. The kid was still a top-end jiu-jitsu competitor. Still had been training for years, and Punk walks in, a year, two, maybe two, if we're lucky, and gets a UFC fight because of his name, and then just gets embarrassed. Yeah. I would have probably pushed him a little bit harder. I saw some of his training sessions. I don't think they were that tough. I don't think his coaches knew really what to do with him. I think they just had him there because of the publicity it was going to bring the Pettis brothers and their training facility. But he lived not far, and I think he still doesn't live far from the Midwest Training Center. He should have came to the Midwest Training Center.
Yeah, I could see that argument as well. And I mean, at the end of the day, he was there because he was there to sell pay-per-views. I mean, I think CPM Miocic's biggest pay-per-view draw for pay-per-view was that fight with CM Punk, so that card. So, but in hindsight, you think that you could have brought him up to your level, even though it would have to be at the UFC. He couldn't do any amateur fights or anything else.
Absolutely. That place was nothing but killers. Everyone that I trained with was better than every person I had fought, which is why it made my life easier in the actual cage when it was for real, because we train like we were fighting. There were times like, hey, we check each other, like, calm down a little bit. Hey, step this back. But in reality, dude hits you again. All right, cool. We're fighting. Like, it's just how it is. And that's in training. So we knew that when we got to the fights, dude, this guy was going to be cakewalk for any of us. And there weren't too many guys that get to fighting. I said underestimation was my biggest downfall, and me just letting myself get distracted were the only things that have ever stopped me from getting the W in the MMA cage. But same thing for Phil. I just don't think he trained hard enough. I don't think he really wanted it, to be honest.
Right.
I really don't think it. I think he was just doing it to do it. As you said, pay-per-views, get some money, call it a day.
Right. For sure. And you could see, as now you're in the pro wrestling business, you could see that, oh, why the attractiveness of it, the appeal of that, right?
Exactly.
Now, you're on an injury hiatus. So talk about how you're healing your body during this time. How different is this injury than something you've had before, like with your MMA career?
This is probably the most serious injury I've had. It did require a surgery. I've usually been able to heal myself naturally or just with recovery time. So 7 years ago, I got hit by a semi truck and messed up my back pretty bad. We didn't do surgery. I did 1.5 years of physical therapy, like a year, and that's a long time to be in pain. I was working Amazon at the time, so I was in and out of trucks all day, just running around like crazy. Thank God I got a desk job eventually with one of those companies. But that was probably the main reason why it took so long. And I felt great. I was able to go back to MMA 2 years after, roughly. There was some other home drama. Unfortunately, my son got very sick at 4 months, and I made a promise to him in the hospital that I was going to go back and fight. And it took me a year to do it, but we did. And got into professional wrestling, had a great first year. Took a bad bump last June and landed straight down, which compressed my disc. Did not know how severe it was, so I actually wrestled on it multiple times a month and night for 8 straight months. And finally, my body shut down and locked up. And I went and got the MRI done, and they're like, oh, you have a herniated disc in the same spot that the truck had happened. And he goes, the disc is sticking so far out left that it has pushed your sciatic nerve out of place, which was why I was in constant pain. I'd lose feeling in my leg. I'd have jolting pains. I'd get done with my match. I'd go back and I'd have to pop pain pills, and I would be stretching and I would barely be able to move. And you wouldn't be able to tell that because I just went through a match that was physical. Like, my matches are usually pretty physical and hard hitting. And so we did the surgery April 24th. They told me beforehand that we didn't know if I'd ever wrestle again. So I was like, oh, okay. They were hopeful, but they weren't going to give me that type of hope officially for it. Like, my odds were not great. Surgery went well. The nerve was fine. He moved the nerve back into place. Said, all right, 6 to 8 weeks, we can talk about possibly getting back to your workouts. I told him I'll be back in 4. And I had my 4-week checkup May 19th, roughly, I think it was. And he's like, all right, you're right. I'm going to clear you to return to working out and to start getting ready. We are now at the point of, if you can return, to now figuring out when you're going to be able to return. So it was a huge difference maker. I had never felt this way. To come back from an injury like that, I have had surgery once in my entire life. I had my appendix removed at 17. I was terrified. I've only been under anesthesia once. I didn't know what if he screws up? What if I can't walk again? I've seen the horror stories. I've seen people that have had, and I personally know them who've had the bad back surgeries. Luckily, mine was easy, that they didn't have to touch my vertebrae. They just had to cut the disc off that was hanging off and recover. So it was at least a little bit better and easier for the doctor to get me to that point of being able to say that. So now we began training again. in June in hopes of returning sometime this year. That's the plan. Actually, I just announced we just announced the video that the Apex will be returning soon. So
Nice. Yeah, we can't wait to see that return, and I'm sure you got to, just recharge and, refresh, right?
this is the slowest I've moved and slowest of my life that I've had in 3 years. Because the
Oh,
MMA training was a year and a half roughly. And then you think I've been in wrestling now for a year and a half, almost 2 years. So it's been nonstop since. And usually I would take a break after a fight to like kind of recharge it a little bit for like a month maybe. But it was like I could just get back in anytime I want. Like if I got an itch, I'd go do it. Here I'm restricted. I can only do certain things, and I'm very cautious about what I do now because I don't want to get back in too fast, re-damage, and then now, okay, now yeah, we're not coming back. This is it. Like I'm never gonna be able to compete again.
definitely. And you've had these matches at Southland Championship Wrestling. Like, talk about, getting in there with someone like Odinson the Berserker. Like, where do you feel that match ranks?
One of my most flawless matches, actually. It was crazy. That was my debut, and I was just honored because I knew the reputation he had around here, and I was just kind of like, oh, he's gonna retire, and I got chosen to be one of his final singles matches. And that's also on to be my debut. So at Southland Championship Wrestling, we actually have what is called High Voltage, which is like our version of NXT, to where it's our pre-show, and guys that are coming up and learning get a chance to wrestle in front of the crowd, but it's its own show. Normally, that's where I would have debuted. They threw me main roster day one right into the fire, and I got to go against a local legend and I got to shock everybody because I walked out with the victory on that one. No, most guys don't get to win their first matches, don't get the victories on their debuts.
Sure.
So it was a huge honor. When Hunter Payne, who's my coach, told me, hey, you got 3 months to be ready for your first match, I thought that was normal. So it turns out that was just the fastest time to get through training, to be cleared. I was like, whoa. Most average people take about 6 months to a year. So
Wow.
huge honor for that one. I've gotten to wrestle Odinson. I had a huge feud with JPH that unfortunately saw him, and unfortunate for him, saw him leave Southland in a loser leaves town match. That was my last match that I got to be in before my back said no more. And he pinpointed the back a lot in that match. So could be contributing factors there.
Mm-hmm.
I've wrestled Scott Spade a few times. I've wrestled some of the CSW guys. I have a win over former NWA champion Sebastian from Exodus out in Iowa or Ohio. Sorry, Ohio. Sorry.
Yes.
But I've had some pretty big matches in a short time. And the one thing I'm pretty proud of is I always like to live up to that challenge. If whoever you put in front of me, I want to match that guy, move for move or, technique for technique. And I'm very prideful of that. I feel like I can work with just about anybody, depending on, his back holds up.
Right. Let's hope it does. And I know that you've talked about training to become a professional wrestler. What did you overcome? Maybe not just the physical, but mental stuff you had to overcome.
I am terrified of heights. I do not go on the top rope. I don't do flips. I'm just not that coordinated. My coordination skills of rotation in air, I think, has been my biggest thing to try to overcome. And that's kind of honestly why I got injured last year, was because I took a backdrop, and when I landed straight down, I was supposed to land flat. I didn't rotate properly after he just threw me over because I didn't post. And I kind of went in for a hug on him because it was against Hunter Payne. I was like, hey, dude, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And he just threw me over his shoulders. I'm like, oh God, and just landed. That's been a major thing. I had my first ladder match last September. Once again, terrified of heights. Got knocked off the top of the ladder. And I thought I was only like 4 rings up. Yeah, I was near the top. I didn't realize it. Couldn't even tell. could not even tell. We've done Tower of Doom where I was like, the guy came up to me, was like, we're gonna do Tower of Doom. I'm like, no, we're not. I'm like, no, we're not. And I think Acid Jazz was in the match with us. He goes, all right, let's go ask Jazzy. I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm like, he'll back me. He ain't gonna do this because he's gonna be the one taking the suplex. And he goes, oh yeah, hell yeah. I'm like, oh God, I got overruled like instantly 3-1. So I'm like, all right, we'll do it. We'll do it. And it was actually nothing. It was such a cool moment too to be a part of it. But
Definitely.
just
Acid Jazz.
overcoming myself. Like I guess my self-doubt. I'm usually a pretty confident person, but there's certain things that's
Sure.
like, especially when it comes to jumping off things or heights. Yeah, no. But in the ring, I don't even think about it. It just kind of happens.
Wow. So the scariest thing was the suplex. Was that off the top turnbuckle?
We were on getting to the top, yes, and then we had another
Okay.
guy come through and just throw us off. And
Oh, okay.
Jazz was getting the highest. He was the one up for the suplex, while the other guy power bombed me and Betty Vargas. And we just hold on, just make sure we bumped it right. My wife was not happy in the front row at all. I just, I think I walked past her when I'm coming out. I'm like, I leaned in a little bit because I always say hi to my kids when I'm getting ready to hop in the ring. And I was like, I am so sorry for what you're about to see. And she goes, what? And I'm like, don't. It's like, it's just like, I went in the ring. I'm like, I am so sorry you're about to see this.
Wow.
So,
Jeez. And I mean, wrestling, someone like Acid Jazz, what do they bring at the level that you found to be inspiring? Like they've been in the business for 20 something, 10 plus years, 30 plus years.
it's amazingly their knowledge, their ability to recover if something is forgotten. Like if you're somebody that goes over your matches ahead of time, it was kind of cool to like understand the philosophy behind things. I've wrestled Scott Spade twice. He doesn't talk to you. You're not going to get a conversation with Scott before the match.
Oh,
It's
wow.
comes up to you. We go over how it's going to end, and everything's called in the ring, old style. And it was just kind of cool because all you're doing, I'm just listening. And I think one of the funniest things was when you learn that stuff, it's like constantly listen to your vets. He said move on the elbow drop or something like that. Like it was quick. I almost didn't hear him. Like, did he say move? Like, I don't know if I should move. I'm like, I think I'm gonna move. And he came down and I just moved out of the way. And I was like, oh God. Okay, that was what he said. He said move. But it's pick that brain of those guys and their resiliency because I was light on Jazz. I think the first time me and him were in the ring together, I was pretty light on him. And I got called out by of another vet. He goes, why are you, what's up with those kicks? There's nothing behind them. I'm like, well, I don't want to hurt him. He's been in this business for 20 plus years, man. Like, you ain't gonna hurt him. He's durable. He's been through a lot. I'm like, oh, and I'm just looking, no offense to Jazz. Jazz is a pretty like, buff guy, but he's a little shorter. I was
Right.
a pretty big guy at the time. Now I'm trying to get back to that because I've been out for so long, but it's that resiliency to it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna snap those kicks a little bit, and there we go. The rest is history on that one.
For sure. And it's great, man. I'd love to see you in there with more of those guys.
I'm
Right?
I'm
Would you like to see
trying.
yourself?
I'm trying. I mean, I've gotten in there with Mulligan before he retired. That was actually one of my favorite matches. I got a really good kudos from him backstage on the future of me. So that was really cool. Friends with Robert Anthony Ego. So when you see me at Ego Pro, it's learning from him. When me and Koa were seeing each other every single day, it was talking back and forth consistently, coming up with ideas, talking about stuff, just thinking of new moves. So it's always good to have guys that are around you that have been doing this a long time to really show you and guide you through things. Like I became really close over this last year with Matty Ice, who's at ROH, or reality wrestling.
Right here,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm like, I had to make sure I specified which ROH on that one. But yeah, he's wrestled around here too, a
Yeah.
lot. I met him at MCW, and him and me just kind of clicked, and he's been really helpful on guiding me through this, especially with the injury, because I didn't know what to do. This is weird for me. So
For sure. Definitely. We'll see what happens. I mean, you've been with a lot of top guys. So, uh, what's the loudest reaction you've had either to your entrance or move?
so one of the biggest pops, like I actually just shared it on my page today, was I was in the Jimmy Smooth Battle Royal last June. And I was part of the final four. They're all feuding or fighting. I wanted no part of it. I just attacked Chris Wildcard Mercer, and took him out. And then I introduced myself to him and told him that my name is Apex and I am the top of the food chain. And the crowd lost it. Got goosebumps from it. I had people come up like, dude,
Wow.
that was one of the coldest things I've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah, I just, it felt right. And I wanted to make sure he knew who I was going forward. That was one of my loudest pops. And then I had my match with Sebastian last August. I would say that probably was a show stealer for me. We legitimately, I think, stole that show that night. We had the loudest reaction of the night. And that was probably the most I heard of Apex is going to kill you's chants in the crowd. And it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
It was so surreal to hear that. And it's like, dude, I think I'm finally getting there. Like we're getting this to the right direction we want it to be. So
That's cool.
Funny thing, I was on a heel run, I think, at the time.
But that was in your home promotion, right?
That was at MCW.
That was MCW. Okay.
Yeah, I was technically went into MCW as a heel, and the fans said otherwise, so we just rolled with it.
Nice. Definitely. And then when you look at your career, what do you want to be remembered for in professional wrestling?
Hard hitting, never give up at mentality. That is one of the things, and I guess it's such a popular thing to say nowadays, but aura farming, I guess. I grew up at a time where Goldberg was not a great wrestler, but there was an aura about him.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to be remembered for the same thing, but probably be better at wrestling.
Right.
Love the man to death. He's the reason I have the mentality that I have by seeing his character and his way with fans and kids. That's the type of person I want to be remembered as. But I would still like I like the fact that even though I do idolize that man, I know that wrestling standpoint and where I'm at in the business, I'm already kind of surpassed where he was when he debuted. And it's kind of cool that even though I'm not on a big television network, I want to be remembered for kind of like the same stuff, that same aura about myself, but have the actual skill sets to back it up a little bit.
For sure. And when you talk about your career, whereas now, where do you want to see it headed once you come back in your return?
I want to make a run towards the big show. I got to at least give it a shot. I was so close to UFC. When you get the conversations with the vets that I've had, there's no reason I don't get called up for at least one opportunity. Whether it's character-wise, because the way the character's going, or because the in-ring skill set, I got to at least make it one time to consider this a success.
So you mean to get a match on television?
A match on television, yep.
Okay.
Even if it's a dark match,
right.
Being in front of a WWE crowd or an AEW crowd,
sure,
one time means that I've succeeded in where I wanted to go, because it's a level past where I was in the MMA world. So I got to go past that and be considered successful.
And then what is your advice for someone that wants to be a professional wrestler?
Be ready. It's going to hurt. The bumps hurt. You got to go in this with everything you've got. Have the open mind. Don't think you know any better just because you watched. I am a constant listener. Now Hunter Payne will probably tell you that I get on his nerves a little bit more, because I definitely talk up a little bit more with how I've been. And he always gets so annoyed when we're doing like a submission hold. I'm like, yeah, if you move your arm a little bit more to the left, I go, now it really hurts. He goes, we're not trying to hurt people here, Apex. I'm like, I'm just saying, it's this close. It's this close. So, but have the open mind, be ready to learn, and don't have an ego. I hate being in locker rooms with guys with ego.
Right.
We're all here for the same thing. We're here to put on a show. You might be further along. Treat everybody with respect the same. I've had an issue with a champion in the locker room. I think one of my first locker rooms I was in, and it was not going to go well for him if he had kept going. And apparently, when I told the owner, they said they can completely understand where I was coming from, and nobody would have stopped me if I would have beat him.
Right. I
Oh,
understand.
okay. But
And you're the wrong guy to be in that.
yeah, that's the funny
He's
thing.
the
Like,
wrong guy. You're
out
the
of
wrong guy for
everyone
to
in the
be in that
locker room,
situation.
everyone in the locker room, I'm the real trained guy here. Like, come on.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you again, Apex, for being on the PW report. And I wanted to know if you could share your predictions for like the first 4 fights for UFC. Is that cool?
Yeah, what
You
do
want to
we
share?
got here? I know the card just changed a little bit here. So
Okay. I was gonna stop this recording and start a new one. So that way
okay,
we
we
could,
can,
make a segment. Is that cool? All right, great.
love it.
Well, appreciate you again, Apex, being on. We're just gonna close it out, being on the PW report, and coming soon to a ring near you. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on the show, John.
Anytime.